okay as I eat my ice cream.
Mark, if you were the president of the United States, what would be the 3 things you would do?
The 3 things I would do?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a deep question. The first thing I would do was apologize to the people that we've hurt as a nation. Not only apologize, but see, people say, oh, apologies mean nothing. And you're right, because apologies have been empty for so long. But that would be followed up with a desire and a call to action for the enemies of the United States to come together and break bread together and truly get to know each other. Because the Bible is very clear that we're supposed to love our enemies and to do good to those who persecute us. And so who are we to not do that ourselves as a leader in the West? So the first thing I would do is bring our enemies together, break bread and get to know each other as neighbors, because that's actually what we are. We're all neighbors in this struggle, this holy jihad, internal jihad, together. The second thing I would do is, this sounds almost, I'll just put it out there. You make it what you want. My father had a very interesting story. He was sitting with some of his members of Congress that he served with. He was a Republican for the 4th District of Michigan, an ambassador in Reagan's administration for the United Nations. And he was sitting with his Republican colleagues and friends and said, how far have we really gotten? Have we really done anything we set out to do? Truly. And they all came to the conclusion that they had not gotten very far in politics. And the question is why? He asked them very simple questions. 1 Corinthians 13 in the Bible that has 7 do's and don'ts of love. Love is patient. Love is kind. He asked them directly, his Republican friends, have we been patient and kind to the Democrats? And the answer is no. The 7 don'ts, it does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, etc. And he asked them, all of those don'ts of love, have we refrained from doing those? They said, no, we've done all of the don'ts of love. And he says, okay, so stop for a second. So the 7 do's of love, love is patient, love is kind, we haven't done to the Democrats. It doesn't envy, it doesn't boast, it isn't proud. All the 7 don'ts we've done. And are we really that surprised that nothing is getting done? So the second thing that I would do is getting back to the roots of what love actually means. And love is an action. Love is an action that's clearly laid out in 1 Corinthians 13. And if people claim to be Christians, then we should be really living up to it in our own hearts. And I would be, hopefully, as a president, keeping, whether I'm assuming I'd be running as a Republican, I would be keeping my Republican and Democratic brothers and sisters in Christ accountable to living out the act of love, right? Which means that just as I would do with the enemies, our foreign enemies of the world, I would do the same for the domestic enemies within. The Democrats and Republicans, I would bring them together to get to know each other, to break bread, to become friends again. And it's interesting because so much of what it means to be in politics is about the people. We've lost sight of what it means to serve our communities, what it means to serve the people. So you can talk to the leaders, you can talk to the international and domestic leadership, but all of this is in vain. This all means nothing unless it comes back to the individual. So I would commission and walk through and walk with and mentor the people in the Republican and the Democratic parties in Congress to go back to the people, to mentor your communities, to uplift your communities, to knit communities back together, knit the communities of blacks and whites together, to knit the communities even with, let me give you an example. My community, we're all white pretty much, and we're still divided, right? It's amazing to me, how can we not, even with our own communities, come together? And the reason is because we have lost the desire to be communities again. So my chief aim in many ways would to bridge the gap between neighbors. What does it mean to be a neighbor? What does it mean to love your neighbor? It means looking at them and going, wow, I don't know your name. Practical stuff. Who are you? Tell me about your family. Do you have kids? I mean, these are the things that we've completely lost the art of. So Facebook, social media is a great thing to connect people, but we have to take it a step further. Connect, yes, on social media, but bring them together in the flesh to talk about each other. Feel the pains of one another. Because when you actually experience the pain, when you experience the difficulties between people, that breaks down all kinds of walls. Because as we've been discussing today, it's the ignorance that breeds the fear, right? That breeds the walls, the division, the animosity, and eventually the wars, right? So how do you destroy ignorance? By publicly coming out against it and saying, let's do this together as communities. Let's start at the home. Get together with your neighborhoods. Get together with your communities. Find the boys who aren't doing well in your communities and help mentor them. I myself was kicked out of 2 high schools when I was younger. I dealt marijuana the first one. The second one, I got kicked out for fighting. Fighting is crazy. They said I was learning disabled and ADHD. They said I could barely pass high school. I would be illiterate pretty much. I wouldn't be able to talk like I am now. I found God. I found the Lord. I moved to the mountains of Southern Virginia, where a 75-year-old mentor said, listen, you punk, you're going to work 11 hours a day in manual labor and read the Bible with me for an hour a day. And my eyes were opened up to God and to His presence and His power in my life. And what's amazing is it opened up a desire to get to know people. I truly had a burning desire to love others in my heart. And again, so many of the issues, I would say, comes down to good leadership, good mentors, people pushing people to do things, giving people the freedom. Go and do this. Even today, I didn't even want to talk on here. But I have a brother. Say, no, speak. Let your voice be heard, right? And sadly, we don't necessarily have the leadership in place to build people up. And say, you have that passion in your heart? Go and do it. Go do it now. So again, I think for me, there are 3 primary things that I would do just to come back around. The first thing is deal with our international issues, the international crises of the world. And the first thing, we can't solve any problems without getting to know each other first. And so the first thing that I do is I would call the world together to eat and to pray and to talk and just be friends. I don't care who you are. That's what I would do. I don't care if you're the enemy of the United States or you're on our terrorist list. I don't care. The whole point is that love does not remember sins, does not remember the past. It cleans the slate. It cleans the slate. That's what we need in our international politics. That's what we need in our domestic politics. We need to clean the slate. And so that's what I do. The second thing, I come back home and say, we need to do that here. We can't talk a big game overseas and not do it in the United States. I bring all the enemies, all my enemies together. And I break bread, love on them. And then I send them back out to their communities to do the same. And frankly, the only way this is going to work is if it comes from the grassroots, it comes from the bottom. You know, let your voice be heard. And let's do it together, right?
So everyone, this was Mark Daniel. What's the last name?
Siljander.
Siljander.
Or Siljender. Or Siljender.
Siljender. And he wants you to come out and friend him. He wants you to come out and ask him questions because he wants to learn. He's interested in really learning. And what it means to break bread is basically to spend time together, to actually not run away when somebody asks you a question. You think about it and you answer it. That's what breaking the bread means. And you can break bread with him over Skype, over WhatsApp, over Messenger. But give him space. Don't ask him stupid questions. Ask him questions which, after he's your friend, you ask him how he keeps himself in shape. You know, how does he, ask him for bodybuilding
Not
tips.
this.
Yeah, well, sometimes, once in a
Sometimes.
while. And ask him that. And then when you have good friendship, when you know he's not going to unfriend you or block you for asking a deeper question, then ask him. And Bertola, do add him if you can. Do connect him around the globe if you can. And do interviews with him. He wants to be a future politician. I think he's already a politician. He knows how to talk. He has the heart in the right place. You can, yes, he is a great speaker for sure. So you can learn how to do that and do interviews with him. You can talk with him. And that is how you learn. You do by doing. You don't just read it in a book that this is how you give a speech. You don't. You have to practice it. You have to do it. So go ahead and add him. Do your interviews. Carla, you can, invite him to your show. All of you guys invite him to your show and ask him to start his own show so he can guide what he knows, what he went through his life. He's, only 26, but he has been through a lot in his life. He has lived a very rich in terms of experienced life, so you can learn from it and take advantage of his white network, his brown network, his black network, his love for Indian food. And
Yes, true.
yeah, so go ahead and invite him. If you're an Indian and if you are a Pakistani and you're living around Charlotte or DC, friend him and invite him over for dinner or lunch and have your friends come over and talk to him. He's a future president of the United States.